Welcome to What's Past This Podcast. My name is Robert.
I'm Damian.
I'm Steve.
And I'm James, and today we're joined by another special guest, Andy Littlefield from the Ucheldre Rep. Hi, Andy.
Hi, nice to be here.
Hi, Andy.
Thanks for joining us, and today we're going to be talking to Andy about one of Alan Bennett's Talking Heads plays, which he's been learning recently.
And if that's your thing, and you're watching on YouTube, why not like, comment, and subscribe?
Don't forget, if you're listening to us on any other platform, please hit that follow button.
So, Andy, you've been learning Alan Bennett's Talking Head, A Chip in the Sugar.
Indeed, yes, I've been learning this. It's probably the most ambitious bit of learning off by heart I've ever done. It's 15 pages of dialogue.
Wow. It's
a monologue, so it's all me. And yes, it's called A Chip in the Sugar by Alan Bennett. It's interesting, firstly, for the fact that although Alan Bennett wrote quite a lot of these type of plays, he wrote only a few of them for men, of which this is obviously one. It's a typically layered piece of writing by Alan Bennett. I think I don't want to give too much away about the plot, just in case somebody happens to watch it. But I think the best thing to do is read a bit of the blurb on the back of the script, which says that Graham, a middle-aged bachelor, emotionally stunted and chronically dependent on his mother, finds life difficult enough at the best of times. When mother meets an old flame and seems set to marry him, however, Graham's old insecurities rear their ugly heads again. Fate eventually rescues Graham, and he resumes his normal life of banal muddle under his mother's amnesiac tyranny. I'm not sure I agree with all that, but that's the basic setup.
And I believe it's actually the very first Talking Head, or at least the first that was released, right?
Oh, I generally don't know that. I chose it because it was written for a man, and it's quite complex. I know other people in the rep are learning other scripts also by Alan Bennett, but to be honest, I don't know. I've seen that Alan Bennett himself has done this play once. It's quite long. It lasts about 20 minutes, half an hour, depending on how quickly you go through it. But no, I don't know that answers that question directly, James.
Yeah, it says. Well, I looked it up a little while ago before we recorded this, and it says on Wikipedia that it was performed by Bennett originally, and it was the first one. And also that he received a BAFTA for Best Actor in 1989 for his performance in this.
Oh, interesting. Well, basically, I think the most important thing about this play, I think, is possibly the most obvious point, and that it is a monologue. So all the information about this play and people who appear in the play come from the mouth of the narrator, Graham, and he is a man who has issues and problems which come apparent in the course of the play. So there are essentially three characters. There's Graham Whittaker himself, there's his mother, Vera, and there's his mother's boyfriend, or wants to be boyfriend, a man called Frank Turnbull. They're all, well, the mother is 72, the boyfriend is a bit older, and Graham himself, as I mentioned just now, is middle-aged. Graham is a man who has issues, as I said. He really is in control of his environment. He thinks or believes he's in control of his mother, that his mother's utterly dependent on him. And when this new character appears, Frank, his nose is put badly out of joint as a result. And all the time you feel a tension, really, I think this is the idea, between what is real, what has actually happened, on the one hand, and what Graham thinks has happened or wants to believe has happened on the other hand. There's a constant tension between the two.
Right.
There's one scene right in the middle of the play where there's a therapy session, and I think it's there partly for comedy purposes. to lighten up the load of what is actually quite a serious play. But the group very quickly fastened on the points that Graham isn't being totally open about himself, and he doesn't like it. He's lost control of the discussion, and he throws a bit of a sulk, reading between the lines. And similarly with his mother. His mother, at least Graham believes that his mother is on the verge of senility, that she's she's utterly dependent on him for all her needs and wants. But at the same time, as I said before, you don't know if that's totally the truth, because whenever she actually speaks for herself, as it were, obviously it's all through his mouth, but when she actually gets the chance to speak for herself, she seems elderly. She seems forgetful. She's not totally sure what a cheeseburger is, but that's not necessarily a sign of senility. It's just a sign of an old person. So it's possible he's telling the truth about her. It's also possible that he's not. Again, he is a man with mental issues, and that is referred to him by himself. And the mental issue seems to be that he's a bit paranoid. He's convinced that he's been watched, and he refers to it several times. And in the play, every time he mentions this to his mother, she tries to change the subject very quickly. So she's obviously heard this before. And as it turns out, yes, they are being watched, and the person who appears comes out with startling information about her boyfriend, her fiancé, and that changes the whole dynamic of the play. But again, you sort of think, is this true? Is there somebody actually watching the house and come up with this information? Or is it something he wants to believe is true and is using it to end the relationship? You're not totally certain what the situation is. So it's a very clever bit of play. And also, I don't want to give too much away, but I think it's fairly clear from early on that Graham's gay.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
That's something he's trying to conceal and control throughout the play.
Right.
But he sort of gives it away himself right at the very end. So I said, I don't want to give too much away, but that is a fairly central theme in the play. And he wants to control it. He wants to control access to that information all the time. So it's quite clever. And the third character is Frank. Frank Turnbull, and there's clearly a bit of testosterone struggling going on between the two, and Graham doesn't like him, but it also seems to be that Frank, that's it. Again, the problem is you don't know how accurate the information is that you're being given, but it seems to be that Frank has been trying to drive a wedge between Graham and his mother, he takes the mickey out of him very early on in their meeting. He doesn't go over totally well, but that might be the way Graham tells it. So those three characters, the complexity of the relationships between Graham and his mother and Frank and Graham is quite complex. And because it's just three characters, it's quite a clever bit of writing. The only problem I've had with it, notwithstanding the length, is that Alan Bennett's quite free between using the words he said and he says. He seems to switch between the two quite freely. And I just gave up in the end. I just said it as it appeared to me. But that's the only issue I had with the actual writing. Yeah.
And Alan Bennett himself is gay, isn't he?
He is.
I believe. Yeah.
He does have a live-in partner. It'd be interesting to know how much of him is in Graham, because he did a series of dialogues about his parents, about his mother and father and his relationship with them. And I got a feeling that there's a bit of Graham, or a bit of Alan, rather, in Graham. But Graham is a bit of a he's a bit of a control freak. Again, I don't know to what extent that is reflected by Alan Bennett, but Graham wants to control the situation around him all the time, and he can't. People keep getting away from him, as it were. But yeah, you're right, James. Yeah, Alan Bennett is gay, and I'm sure there's an element of what of Graham in Alan, or whichever way it is, Alan in Graham.
Okay.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think that the thing you said about kind of the audience doesn't quite know what's real and what's not. I think it's kind of a common thing with a lot of these talking heads because it's, as you say, it's being told from the perspective of one character, and often the characters are quite flawed, or they have something kind of wrong with them in a way, and you're seeing their sort of warped view of the world from their perspective, and as the thing goes through, you're trying to figure out what the reality is. Yeah,
I think that's absolutely true, and as I said, it's easy on one hand to simply take the narrative as it is and just accept his word, but then you think back and you think, hang on, is that true? And certainly when it comes to the therapy session, is quite funny in a way, the way he does it. And that's one thing also about Alan Bennett. Ultimately, the message is quite serious, but he keeps putting in little lines which are funny. And I think particularly about the therapy session, that is definitely in for comedy purposes. He's got one person who's his age or a bit older. There's someone else who's an ex-battered wife. Another one who's asking if they're having sexual intercourse. And Graham really doesn't want to get involved in that discussion at all. And they're all. It doesn't sound funny, but it is. The way it's put together is quite clever. So yeah, it's a definite division in attention in the minds of the audience. What is going on? Is this real, or is this Frank, or rather is this Graham saying what he wants to be the truth? I've only seen one other of his talking heads one, I must admit. So this is I've seen quite a few Alan Bennett plays. I saw something called Habeas Corpus some time ago.
All right.
I saw The History Boys, which actually got a lot of very ripe language in it. And that's again very much a flawed person at the end of it. The Richard Griffith character was an inspired teacher, but also a bit of a paedophile, and who caught between the two things. You know, you want the best for him because he's such a brilliant teacher, but on the other hand, you don't want the best for him because he's not good with boys. I think someone else saw, is it Woman in a Caravan? Said it was utterly brilliant.
Oh yeah, that's a good film. Yeah,
Is that the one with Maggie Smith?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that is a brilliant film. I can never remember the actress's name, but I've watched the film and it's brilliant.
Yeah, that was the one in Harry Potter, wasn't she, Maggie Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way I had to think about it then was just Maggie from The Simpsons.
And Downton Abbey.
Oh, yes.
Oh, of course,
yes,
Downton
the
Abbey,
Dowager.
yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And also, the two plays of his that I've seen on stage broadcast were Manus of George
Oh, yes.
III. Is his,
I've watched that one as well, yeah. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen any of these, so I have to give him a watch.
Yeah.
Did you see Alleluia as well?
No,
that was a year or two ago.
No,
Is that on stage or a film or?
It was a broadcast.
Oh, right.
It was the only one because I saw it here in Sheffield, and it was the only time that I've not been able to get. It's the only time that I've not been able to get a ticket for the broadcast because it was so popular that it sold out the entire cinema. I mean, yeah. So I haven't quite realised just how popular Alan Bennett is as a modern playwright.
it's very northern as well. His plays are very much based in the north. Yeah. The History Boys was one where James Corden first came to public view as an actor.
Oh, right. Okay.
I haven't seen that actually.
What was that one called again? Sorry.
The History Boys.
Oh, The History Boys. Yeah, I've heard of that one. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
Added that to my. I've got a list of films that I want to watch. So
Yeah.
added that one to the list.
Yeah, I keep making a list as well of films to watch.
Have you seen? I was wondering whether you watched because in 2020 they produced remakes of the original Talking Heads, and
yes, they did.
I'm just looking at it on Wikipedia. They did a version of A Chip in the Sugar with Martin Freeman.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you watched that.
I haven't. No, I haven't. But have you? Has anyone here watched it?
I've seen some of them, but I haven't seen that one.
I've only seen the Chip and the Sugar one because I watched that one because, Andy, you was doing that one, so I wanted to get an idea of what that was about before I listened to your version of it. So yeah, that's the only one I've seen.
Was it good, Rob? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. It was good. Yeah.
Was that the one with Martin Freeman in it, or Alan Bennett?
It was. No, Martin Freeman. Yeah, it's on iPlayer, I think, BBC.
I'll have to watch it.
I've seen the ones I've seen from this series. I saw the Imelda Staunton one, Lady of Letters, and Soldiering On. I think Harriet Walter.
Did anybody read A Hand of God?
I haven't seen that one. No.
Oh, right. That's because I've got that one, which I was looking at doing possibly, but that's actually that's done from a female perspective, but an owner of an antique shop. But we're gonna. It was just you can change that to a male owner rather than a female owner. So, what I was looking at as a possibility. Still looking at it.
Well, I've learned it in 3 sections because a lot of learning off. And I know Rob and Tom are hoping to come along and do the final section.
All right.
So I'm hoping
you recorded a few bits already then.
Oh yeah, we've done 2 bits, but it's not been put out, as it were, because we've still got to do the last bits when Rob and Tom feel safe enough to do so. But it's
okay.
It's a long old piece of work.
The Hand of God, the one I've got a copy of, is I think it's 8 pages long, so it's nothing compared to yours.
Oh gosh, 15 pages. Yeah, it goes on.
Yeah,
on.
half of mine was yours, the one I've got.
Well, that's good. I wish I'd done that one. But this is good. I've enjoyed it. Yeah. That's, I do like Alan Bennett's stuff. I must admit, he writes very literate type stuff. He doesn't tend to do the romantic type stuff. It's all very much this sort of thing. I suppose that's because he's of his own sexuality, but he's not. He tends to write this sort of thing about lonely men, frustrated men, that sort of. I don't know about the women's side, but again, the women tend to be single women, don't they?
So people on the sort of fringes of society, almost.
Yeah, that's right, James. I don't like using the word user because I think we're all unique to ourselves, and I think he treats some people with certain sympathy and compassion, which I like. That nobody's really a loser. You just live life according to your own rules, and that's what he does. He does in this play. But at the same time, it is, I suppose, a little bleak. You know, sort of you get this man and his wife, and they live life on their own, and they go out looking at old buildings and so on. But there we are. This is life. Yeah.
So you said you've recorded sort of 2 parts of it, and so this whole thing was a project that was it Tom's idea originally?
It was Tom's idea. I know he's got an idea of whenever the Ucheldre is finally opened up again, he wants to sort of try and use some of these as a way of getting things going. And I know Donna's been.
Oh yes, I was on with one of them.
Learning a bit, yeah, and I think he's hoping that you, Steve, and Lynn also do a bit of this. So we get sort of 4 plays lined up.
Which one was Lynn going to do? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm actually not sure which one Donna's doing. I've seen a bit of it.
No, I'm not sure.
Do you know, Rob?
No, I'm trying to because
Well, you should remember which one Donna's doing.
yeah, but it's been such a long while, and
Do you want me to read the titles to you, see if it triggers anything?
Yeah.
Okay. An Ordinary Woman, The Shrine, A Lady of Letters,
Oh,
Soldiering
hang on,
On.
wait. I just remembered, not in the list that you've just said, but it's Miss Fozzard Finds Her Feet. That's her one.
Oh, okay.
It just came into my head now. Yeah, that's the one she's been doing. We're in the same situation as the same with Andy. We've recorded 2 parts of hers and still need to do part 3. But with the real life stuff happening, we've been unable to sort of do it. Otherwise, I think we would have got all of these parts recorded by now.
Well, I must admit, in terms of staging, it's quite simple, isn't it, Rob? Basically, I'm sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I mean,
staging isn't difficult.
Yeah, with the monologues, they're fairly straightforward to do. I mean, obviously, there's not that much movement, and if there is, it's very little. So I think the difficult part is for the person, have to learn the lines, and because it's all one piece, you more or less have to learn all of that, because it's very difficult to sort of edit 2 parts together and make it look like one thing, unless you actually plan it out.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about the filming, how have you found the filming, Andy?
It's been fairly straightforward. I mean, for me, the main problem for me in terms of actual performance is that it's just me talking for 15 pages, half an hour odd. And I'm very conscious that can get just possibly just a little bit boring for people watching. So I try and vary the voices a bit. So a voice for Mr. Turnbull, a voice for the mother, and the voices for each of the people in the therapy group. And it's just trying to get the voice consistent. So from one filming to another filming, it sounds consistent to what I'm trying to do, as it were. And also, does it get boring for people just watching me spouting on and on and on? So I think that's why occasionally I get out of the chair and move and just try and keep interest in the different voices and in just a bit of movements. Otherwise, inevitably, I will get bored. And also, as I said before, there's a bit of confusion in my mind. Sometimes he says he said, and sometimes he says or she says, and it's just doesn't seem to be any real pattern to it. I suppose one of the things you've got to think is who actually am I talking to? And I think it's no criminal case involved, so it's obviously not the police. So I came to the conclusion I'm actually talking to a social worker or a psychiatrist, and or therapist, and just trying to unburden myself a bit. So, and that's why sometimes the truth about me sort of slips out rather than me just concealing it all the time. So I think that's one of the issues. Who am I talking to? Who is this addressed for? And that's why sometimes it doesn't really matter if I say he says or he said. It doesn't matter. It's just me talking off the top of my head all the time. So, and I suppose at the same time, it does help to keep the audience on their toes. It's not easy.
It's interesting you said that, actually, because I hadn't thought about that before, because I kind of would have always thought about it as kind of almost like breaking the fourth wall or something, like you're talking directly to the audience. So it's interesting to think of it as like if you're not talking to the audience, who are you talking to? It's an interesting question, and I wonder if that would whether that conclusion would vary depending on which play it is.
Oh, a good question. And also, I think it might vary in terms of whether you're talking to on a film or whether it's in the theatre. And in a film, I mean, you're talking to a camera basically, so it's there's no fourth wall involved. Whereas in a theatre, the one thing you're told often, anyways, is you never break the fourth wall. You're talking, you don't talk directly to the audience. But in a sense, the audience is part of the performance. I've got to talk to someone, and the audience is is obviously it. So it's sort of built into the whole structure that you've got to break the fourth wall. You've got to talk to the audience.
Yeah. I think that's the big difference between a normal play and a monologue or even a panto.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Again, the panto is all about involving the audience, isn't it? So it's
Yeah.
In a way, the audience has kind of become a character of its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, I think with these plays, the thing is that they're also very funny, and so if I can imagine that performing these live would solicit kind of laughter. One would hope so. So obviously there would be a kind of communication because you'd have to every time they'd laugh, you'd have to pause and kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a lot of that depends on how a professional actor. I think would probably get a bit more laughs out of it. That's very difficult. I remember years ago watching Waiting for Godot.
Oh yes,
that's supposed to be a comedy.
Is it?
Yeah, did you?
Oh. Yeah, I did in school. Yeah. Well, I say I did it in school. I just did a section of it for the drama exam. It was got a bit confused with it for a while.
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, it's all one lines. I mean, I don't know. You obviously know the play, Steve, but it's all one lines apart from one very long speech from someone ironically called Lucky, and Lucky has a speech which declines into utter gibberish. I mean, it goes on for pages. But I don't know what you found, Steve, but it seemed to me that if anyone was taking part in that play, you'd have to learn the whole play because it's all one lines all the way through it.
Yes.
But also in the production I saw, it was professional actors, but they weren't that good. And it rapidly got very boring, sort of you just wanted the play to end. There's one character saying, I've got to go now. And I've got to say go.
Yeah.
I love that. It's funny. I read the script. I've never seen it performed, but I read the book, and there's lots of bits where, because it's tons of stage direction, so people keep saying, I'm off. And then the stage direction says he doesn't leave.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. He sits down. It's a very on the page it's very, very bleak, I think, for the most part. Like there's a lot of very, very kind of dark and it's one of the most bizarre plays I've ever read.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I think it's difficult to follow, and I think I just turned up to that play. I should have read it before, like you said, because I might have had a bit more understanding of what to expect. But it is kind of a bleak play, and I can't help feeling that in a way. Alan Bennett is very influenced by that sort of play because there's a lot of that sort of humour and sort of black dark humour in Chip and the Sugar, as there is in Waiting for Godot.
There's this one particular line at the end of Waiting for Godot that always sticks in my head because it is like just incredibly bleak. I think it's Pozzo, is that the character?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, his last line before he leaves. Hang on. Talking amongst yourselves. I think I've got a copy of the script. I want to get it. I just want to see what it is.
And there's Estragon and Vladimir.
That's it. Yeah.
And this poor guy called Lucky.
Yeah. Whichever one I played, I can't remember which one it was now. It might have been Vladimir, but my character, I was given to wear because they're both sort of.
It wasn't It wasn't a policeman character, was it?
Not quite, but we were both sort of tramps, and the character I played, I was given a tattered old policeman's coat to wear.
Ah, yes.
There we are.
A police-ish character, as always.
Yeah, I thought
Our
you'd
whole
find that
career
funny.
opened up.
When aren't you giving a when aren't
I
you giving a
don't
policeman
know.
outfit, Stephen?
I don't know.
Is playing police officers like your favourite kind of character to play, Steve?
And why not? He's good at it. I remember there was a play called Murder to Death, and he played a policeman in that.
Yeah. I
And-
was, yeah.
Andy, do you definitely think that Stephen's typecasted as a policeman?
Well, I think I think you should go for it, Steve, and sign up with an agent.
Have you got the line now, James?
No, I don't think. I think I left my script in Wales. Basically, the line. I believe the line is, he says, completely out of nowhere. He says, "They give birth astride of a grave. The light flickers for an instant, and then it's night once more." And then he leaves, and it's just like it comes out of nowhere, and it's just like this incredibly bleak thing. And it's I just read that, and I was like, whoa.
But yeah, as I said, it's supposed to be partly a comedy. It's supposed to be a few laughs in it. Oh, I couldn't see him.
I think I believe there was a production of it a few years ago with Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen that I think they did in
Really?
rep with yeah. Do you remember seeing, Stephen, a broadcast? The two of them did a broadcast of Pinter's No Man's Land.
I did.
I didn't see it, but I remember seeing advertising, yeah.
You did see it, I'm sure you did.
Oh, did I? I do
Yeah.
recall, I do recall seeing something, yes. Now you mention it, yeah.
It was when we were doing Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Was it the one with Patrick Stewart in it? And, yeah.
Yeah, and they did the two plays. They did that and Waiting for Godot. The two of them did that in rep. And I think I saw the trailer online, and it is, it obviously was being played as a comedy. And but then the comments on the video were like, "This is disgraceful. It's not supposed to be funny." It's so yeah.
I think they misread the play.
Yeah.
Because that's actually another person I've never really listened to is Samuel Beckett. I've always been slightly intimidated by his reputation as being a bit obscure. So maybe I ought to get stuck in. I'm trying to read Ulysses at the moment, and that's slow going as well. So I think a lot of those plays of that sort of period are obscure. I can't think of another word.
It's definitely kind of avant-garde, I suppose, might be.
Avant-garde,
maybe. Yeah.
Even for now.
Andy,
Yeah.
have you had an interest in plays and acting all your life, or?
Well, yes and no. I've tried to do it in the past, but it wasn't until I came to Holyhead to live that I really summed up the nerve to actually get involved. So the acting I did here was the first real acting I've ever done.
Oh, right.
And I must admit, I've enjoyed it a great deal. So the first one we did, what was the first one we did? It was that one where Who Killed Father Christmas? Was that the one?
Yes, Who Killed Santa, yeah.
Who Killed Santa, that's right. And I hope, well, I have enjoyed it. That's the number one thing.
Yeah.
I know I'm a bad actor. You can edit that word out if you like. I just enjoy the whole thing. I enjoy the read through. I enjoy the rehearsing. I enjoy the performance. I enjoy absolutely everything. And I don't know. I've been there, Steve, about 4 years now, I think. And we've done quite a few plays in that time.
Yeah, we have, yeah. Do you have any particular favourites that you've done or favourite characters that you've played?
Yeah, my absolute favourite was Abigail's Party. I loved that play.
Yeah, you were opposite Caroline, weren't you? You were playing husband and wife with Caroline.
Caroline, that's right, I was. I played Lawrence, that's right. Lawrence, you're not well. Well, I was dying of a heart attack. But Lawrence was, Caroline was absolutely awesome in that role. I thought she was fantastic. But I loved it because again, you had ordinary people in an extraordinary situation, how they reacted to it. So you had in that case 5 people. You had 2 couples and a stranger, and they were forced into this flat because a party was carried on in another flat, so they couldn't stay there. And 4 of them were getting more and more and more pissed, while my character was out sort of doing something else. So when I came back into the house, the what's the name? What was the name of the host? Can't remember the name.
Caroline's character, you mean?
Yeah. What was her name?
We had this exact same conversation when we did the episode with Lynn. We were talking about this, and we couldn't remember the name of that character either. Then
Beverly. Her name was Beverly. I just came to me. She started flirting with someone else, and I wasn't amused.
Oh yeah, Mike's character, yeah.
Mike's character, yeah, and Beverly started really misbehaving rather badly, and I couldn't take the stress. So there was a huge row, and then I had a heart attack at the end of this row. And well, the point of it though was that you had ordinary people in an abnormal situation, and also they were all extremely drunk by the end. So they lost control of what the way they would normally have behaved. I thought that was a wonderful play. I still do. And I thought it was on television, wasn't it, with, forget her name, Alison something.
Oh, Alison.
She was in Gavin and Stacey. Alison Steadman, thank you.
Alison Steadman.
She was fantastic in that role, but I still think Caroline was far better. She was absolutely brilliant. And that one I really enjoyed. I've enjoyed them all. I enjoyed Drinking Habits, which I know you were in.
Oh, yes.
And
that was fun.
That was a typically amateur play in that everyone had a good crack at something. And
yes, they did, yeah.
All the roles were more or less equal. And I enjoyed the follow-up, which we did on a script club a week or so ago.
Yeah.
And that looked a good play. I thought I will happily have a go at that one. And for the same reason, and also the first one was very popular. People really came in. Yeah. Probably one of the most popular plays we've done.
I think we had like full houses on all 3 nights. I think with that one. I think
we did. Yeah.
And we did another one, which was the last Panto Little Grimly, and I quite enjoyed that one. But
yes,
we had a terrible house that night. So there was only about 10 people turned up, which was a real shame. But
yeah,
it was quite good. Yeah. But I've enjoyed them all really. Yeah.
Well, talking about audience numbers, I know for me, the way I feel before I go on stage, like other people are saying, "Oh, there's this amount of people there," blah blah blah, and I'm like, I don't really want to know. Like, you can tell me after the show, but before the show, before I go on stage, I don't want to know. So, I'm just wondering, how do you feel about that, Andy? Do you mind knowing how many people's out there, or?
Well, I must admit, Rob, I do like to know from both points of view. Yeah, I usually have a look out and ask, and they say that normally you double up the number of people who are pre-booked. So, But having said that, Rob, it's usually if we get 40, that's a good house. And at Drinking Habits, it was a full house, as you said, about 80, 90 people, which is about as much as the theatre can hold. But on the other hand, I've been where a group turned up, a group called Blackheart, and there were about 5 or 6 people in the audience. It was very embarrassing. I sort of we tried to applaud as loudly as we could just to help them feel a bit better about it, but it's a bit dispiriting. If I take what you said, Rob, it is a bit dispiriting if there are not many people there watching it. And one thing I wish they'd do is if they wouldn't let people sit right at the back. If there's going to be a small house, rather they all sat at the front. But he doesn't rope off the back seats, so you get some people sitting at the very back of the theatre. What are they doing up there? No good to me.
Yeah, I think it's like with obviously we do a lot of pantos, and it's always so much more difficult to do a panto to a small crowd because of the interaction, and so I always like to know before we start, and it's it's always nice when they say, "Oh yeah, it's sold out today,"
Yeah.
or whatever. And there was one not last Christmas before that. That I think it's sold out, and they had to cram in extra seats, and then they got about 140 in,
Wow.
or something like that. And that was really kind of exciting. And,
Which panto was that with? Do you remember?
That was Aladdin.
Oh, was it? Nice. Very good. Didn't realise it was Aladdin. that was one prior to that, previous to that.
I think I was Alice in Wonderland. Did you do one like Alice in Wonderland? You were in it, Steve. I remember that.
Oh yeah, we done Alice in Pantoland.
Alice in Pantoland, yes, we did, yeah. Yeah.
Just me and you. The others didn't.
No, they weren't there. No.
There was that.
You shone on stage, both of you.
I think I played typical Anvil, about 2 or 3 different characters, as did you, Damian.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Which one of them had an incredibly quick change?
Yes,
like
it did, yes.
Around 5 seconds. On stage, new costume.
Yeah.
How did you find playing 4 characters in one play?
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Fun, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's fun. That's all I can say.
That's typical Anvil style, though, really.
Yeah, pretty.
Was it? Yeah.
I much preferred the
I think
one
as soon as
character.
we
Did you ever have that with Anvil, James? You ever play more than one?
Did I?
I don't think.
No,
you did,
I don't think she trusted me with more than one. I did with the Tempest. I played 2.
Oh yes,
but
that was the only time.
I think generally I got given a nice single role with very minimal
Panto,
costume changes.
Yeah.
And in Panto.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things when we started Hereafter and it was like, I was kind of starting to plan what I was going to do with the script for Aladdin. I wrote a big sheet of I wrote a big long sort of Word document of things that I wanted to do and things that I didn't want to do. And one of the big things was I don't want people playing 5 different characters. I want it to just be one person per character.
Yeah.
And I prefer it like that. Yeah.
Makes sense to me. Yeah. I know Anne was thinking of asking me to do something in 12th Night once, but I was too many commitments, so I didn't take it up. That's the closest I ever got to doing anything for Anvil.
I can imagine you as a Sir Andrew. Or
I was thinking, one of them. That's what I was thinking as well, James.
It was one of those roles, a chick or Toby Belch or something like that.
I was trying to remember the names before saying it, and then James said it, so that was handy.
That was it was fortunate. I think he was right as well.
Have you ever done any Shakespeare's, Andy?
No, I haven't, and I'd love to, but I know the problem. We only have about 6 regular members in the Ucheldre Rep, and that's too few. Shakespeare has typically quite a big cast list, and it'll be difficult to do without doubling up quite a bit. And I was hoping that Ucheldre and Anvil would sort of get together and do a combined production.
So was I.
Well, there was talk of that, actually.
I had suggested it a couple of times. I think I might have spoken to you about it, Andy, see what you thought of it, didn't I?
There's no reason why Ucheldre Rep and Hereafter Productions can do something together.
That's true.
And actually, Lynn was talking recently. She said she really wants to do production of Merry Wives at some point.
Yeah.
And I think it was something that she said, well, if we pulled together the Rep and Hereafter and like people from Script Club and all these different people, it might well be doable.
Yeah.
Potentially would be nice.
It would be.
Are there any particular Shakespeare plays that you'd like to do in an ideal world?
Well, for me, my absolute favourite is Tempest. And it's a wonderful play and wonderful language. But the main problem is for me anyway, for an amateur Shakespeare's difficult, and it has to, for a professional group, it's one thing. For an amateur group, it can drag a bit unless people can really work at the poetry and the pace of the thing, because otherwise it can be an awful. I went to an awful drag. I went to an amateur production once, the 12th Night, and it was terribly slow. That's the problem with Shakespeare for me. So and also the main thing about Merry Wives of Windsor or Twelfth Night, you get a central character who really has to dominate the stage and the theatre. And I don't know if you've got anyone that sort of personality. I mean, for instance, in Merry Wives of Windsor, you've got Falstaff, of course, and whoever plays Falstaff has not only has to have physique, has to have a huge personality to dominate everything. And
what did you say about physique? I didn't hear that then.
They have to be big and fat.
Oh.
If you feel you qualify, Steve, that's fine.
I wasn't thinking about myself. Thank you. Thank you, though, Andy.
I'll tell you what, though. If we were to do The Tempest, I would love to redo my role as Trinculo.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, you were good at that.
Fool. Yeah.
You were good at that. No fairness.
Yeah, I think it's like. I think the problem with The Tempest is, for me, it's that big scene right near the start that it's very long and very exposition heavy, and it can drag because it's just Prospero explaining the plot.
Yeah.
Well, Prospero is the central role as well, but you're right, so there is that scene. And Prospero has to be a character who can fill the stage with his personality. Because he's so important to the whole thing. I do love it, so I think it's a wonderful play.
I think like each time I have seen it subsequently since doing it, I think it's just like the language is so beautiful, even if the plot is a little static.
A little static, yeah, it is. You're right. So yes, I'd love to do Shakespeare, but I think there's a few technical problems to doing it. But if you could get enough people together, then why not? Let's go for it. I think they used to do a lot of it, didn't they, under Mirror, before Tom? But Tom's tastes tend to be more modern, and also since I've been a member, we've tended to specialise a lot in light comedies, and which is fine because it does the sort of play which does attract the audiences. But I'd love to do something a bit more substantial, like we've done in the Script Club, So
Well, actually, it leads me on to something I wanted to ask about, which was since the pandemic, which we try not to talk about on this podcast.
But you've already named it. Tut.
You're the only one that mentions it all the time.
I'm allowed to mention it once per episode.
No, you're not.
Since then, one of the projects that some of us have been a part of is Lynn's, not Lynn's, but the Zoom plays that Lynn brought to us. I was wondering what that experience was like for you, performing in a new medium.
Oh, I enjoyed it. It's trying to remember who it was. It was different. It was different in that Zoom plays, there was often a delay between one person speaking and the next person speaking.
Yeah,
there were technical problems, weren't there? And also the signals sometimes broke down. There was it was fortunate in a way that the play was written specially for that particular situation, and you could see a problem if we tried to do anything like that in real life, as it were. They'd have to rewrite the whole thing. But as a way of keeping in touch, keeping some sort of acting going, I could see the point. And also, no one, including me, actually learnt their lines off. It was all reading from the page. So often all you saw was the top of somebody's head as they read the lines from the script. I mean, there were technical problems. I thought I enjoyed doing it, so it was fun. But I think as a way of as a medium for performance, it had its drawback. I think if it was to be done a more regular thing, I would insist on people learning their lines and performing, looking at the camera. I think that would have made a lot of sense.
Since the I can't say, I've already said it once.
Don't you try it.
Over the last year or so, I'll say that. Over the last year, we've been as Hereafter, we've been doing kind of radio plays and sort of short stories and things like that, and that's been a similar kind of experience of creating things online, as it were, similar to how we record this with microphones at home and stuff like that. And I think that's something that we hope to continue in the future. But we do have I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, Andy, but we've got a project, a fairly big kind of radio play project in the works at the moment.
Oh yes.
We were hoping that you'd take part in if you were interested.
I'd love to. I'd love to.
Great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant.
Awesome.
Okay, and now it's time for this week's quiz. This week I am reading the questions, and today's questions are some Shakespeare questions. So I'm going to read 5 quotes from Shakespeare plays. You just have to answer which play each of these quotes is from, and so I'll read the questions and then I'll go through the answers at the end. So write down your answers as we go through. Okay, question 1. Some Cupid kills with arrows, some with traps. Question 2. Better a witty fool than a foolish wit.
Ooh, I think that's...
Okay, question 3. Their manners are more gentle, kind than our generation you shall find. Okay, question 4. Look like the innocent's flower, but be the serpent under it. Okay, and finally, question 5. A little more than kin, but less than kind.
Oh, I know that one. Right. I am struggling. I must admit they were tough. That's tough questions.
Yeah, those were tough ones, James. Where did you get this from? Obscureshakespeare.com.
Okay, so here's the answers. Question 1 was some Cupid kills with arrows, some with traps. That was from Much Ado About Nothing.
I've got a play starting with the same letter. Does that count?
You can have half a point.
No, don't do that.
No, I'm not.
No, okay. Okay, question 2 was better a witty fool than a foolish wit. That was Twelfth Night.
Yes, I got one.
Question 3, their manners are more gentle, kind than of our generation you shall find. That was from The Tempest.
Oh.
Gonzalo, that's I just checked that one. Gonzalo, and it's Act 3, Scene 3. If in Naples I should report this now, would they believe me? It's in that line. Question 4, look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it, was Macbeth.
Oh.
I don't remember that. What have you got? Have you got quotes?
It's Lady Macbeth. She's it's the bit where she's first trying to convince him to kill the king.
Kill Duncan, yeah.
The line is, "Oh, never shall sun that morrow see. Your face, my thane, is a book where men may read strange matters, to beguile the time. Look like the time. Bear welcome in your eye, your hand, your tongue. Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. He that's coming must be provided for, blah, 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 blah."
Anyway, question 5.
And finally, question 5. A little more than kin, but less than kind, was Hamlet.
Yay!
Got 2.
Okay, Andy got 2. Damian, how many did you get?
2.
Stephen?
I got 0.
Yay!
Oh dear.
Rob?
Robert?
I got 2, surprisingly.
You did?
Oh,
Which means, guys, what? Well,
that means that Stephen is this week's big loser.
yay!
I'm not always the loser, you know. When you don't ask me about bloody musicals.
Right, next week's quiz is about musicals.
See, I feel guilty.
Not really. 'cause
See, I
don't know
feel
anything about
guilty on you.
musicals.
You can have the point that we decided not to give you from earlier.
That's still not going to help me.
Well, Stephen, that means you get to do next week's quiz.
Okay.
And that sound means that we have reached the end of this episode. And, well, thank you, Andy, for being our guest. Hope you enjoyed it.
Goodbye, everyone, and thank you for having me. I had a great time. Enjoyed it very much.
And well, we hope you guys, as the listeners, viewers, have enjoyed it also. And if you did, then you know what to do. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below. And if you are listening on any other platform, then please hit that follow button.
And this podcast is now available on most streaming platforms. Why not check us out on iTunes Podcast?
And don't forget to check out the links in the description below for our other channels and websites.
It's a au revoir from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
And to play us out, we mentioned again the Zoom plays earlier, so here's the music that I wrote for the Zoom plays, and it's a big French goodbye from me. See you next time. Ta-ra.